Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Whitfield Report. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in for this special edition of the podcast. Technically, I'm releasing 2 episodes on Saturday. This one, and then I will be doing the live stream tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, which will be our 4th of July special. Since it is 4th of July weekend, we'll be doing a celebration and just kind of a casual hangout show. So I want to invite you to that. That'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight on the Whitfield Report YouTube channel. Hopefully Apex will be there, and hopefully a bunch of friends of the show will pop in and say hello. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And I know I usually do a Thursday show, folks, but honestly, it's been a bit hectic this week, and it's been a bit crazy. So I really don't know what edition to call this other than a bonus episode or a special report. But this episode of the podcast really is important, I feel, because this week Bill Cosby was released from prison due to errors in his conviction and in his trial. So now he is out of prison and claiming his innocence. And this has a lot of people talking. This is a topic that definitely deserves to be brought up on the podcast. I don't necessarily want to bring it up on the live stream, because it is 4th of July weekend, and I want to, keep it more in a celebratory mood. And I would have reported this earlier on in the week and given my analysis, but evidently I just haven't had time. But this really does deserve its own special podcast, I feel. So that's what we're going to do right now. And just my initial thought was, wow, they let Cosby go because of an error. Now, look, honestly, and some people are not going to like this. What I'm about to say. But Bill Cosby is out there, claiming his innocence once again, and claiming that he, didn't hurt any of these women and whatnot. And to be honest, folks, he has every right to do so now, as a free man. Whether or not he did those crimes, those alleged crimes now, I guess, is something that I go back and forth on. And I really can't say for sure anymore. Some of those testimonies seemed pretty convincing. The evidence at the time seemed pretty convincing, but apparently not, since he is out. And so this has led me to think about a couple of things. Not just the legal system, but also, and this is really what I want to focus on for the podcast today, folks, or whenever you're listening to this. I want to focus on the trial by legal system and the legal court versus the court of public opinion. Because the court of public opinion, I find, especially in this era of social media, is very interesting. And this whole Bill Cosby situation with him being released harkens back to something that I've said on the program for years, and something that Apex Gamma, my co-host on the Saturday streams, and I have also said for as long as we've hosted the show together, which is that the internet is not real life, right? And what exactly do I mean by that? Well, during the beginning of the whole Me Too movement, when the Harvey Weinstein, thing got blown open, the stories came out about Harvey Weinstein, and it seemed to be pretty damning. There seemed to be, inconclusive, there seemed to be not inconclusive evidence, but rather the opposite, overwhelming evidence that Harvey Weinstein had done all of the molestation and the sexual harassment and assault of these women, and there was no doubt about it. He was going to go to prison, and even more shameful with that was the fact that several Hollywood producers, actors, and actresses too, had known about Harvey Weinstein for years, and they never did anything about it because he was powerful. He was one of the main people in Hollywood who could make or break people's career, not just with the Weinstein Company and his studio, but pretty much throughout all of Hollywood. It's kind of like the Walt Disney Park system, right? If you're an employee of Disney World or Disneyland or any of the Disney theme parks, and you fuck up and get fired there, you're most likely not going to do well at Universal Studios, Orlando, or any of the other theme parks out there, right? Because Disney is kind of the industry leader / standard. And that's what Harvey Weinstein was as far as producers go. So people just played ball with him, so to speak, to keep their careers on track, and he was allowed to get away with, maybe not murder, but pretty damn close to it, actually. I bring Harvey Weinstein up to say that everyone, knew about what he did, right? There was no denying it whatsoever. Bill Cosby was a little bit of a different case. He was always seen as America's dad. He was seen primarily as the figurehead for African American role models, positive African American role models, really up until, I would say, Barack Obama ran for President of the United States. And whether you agreed with Obama's politics or disagreed with him, as I did and still do, there's no denying that, pretty much after Cosby, he basically took over that role as kind of the most influential African American, I would say. The point is no one thought that Bill Cosby was a bad guy. So when all these allegations came out, almost no one believed any of them because it was too unbelievable to think that America's dad, not just to the black community, but to all Americans for decades and decades, could be capable of such heinous acts. And then as the stories came out, it pretty much became a situation of, well, more and more women are coming out, and this was kind of all around the same time that the Harvey Weinstein stuff was happening too, so therefore it must be true, right? Well, now with him being released, that might not be the case. I'm not saying I believe that he was innocent. I'm also not saying that he's fully guilty. But what I am saying is, we are now in a spot, and this is really the meat of what I want to get to, where social media and the internet meets reality. You know, hashtag Me Too, as I said, really, was the start of all the actresses and females in Hollywood that were harassed by Harvey Weinstein. It was hashtag Me Too, as in, I was assaulted by Harvey Weinstein as well. Me too. Well, then it evolved into other people in Hollywood, being called out for their behavior. And when it first started, I even said on the show, on this podcast, that I thought that Me Too could be a very positive thing. However, I also said that I feared that Me Too could get co-opted by the far radical left and by the feminazi movement, as Rush Limbaugh used to like to call them, to demonize all sorts of men, and just men in general. And that is exactly what happened. Louis C.K., in my opinion, did the right thing and admitted publicly what he did, said it was true, and decided to take a break, step away from the spotlight, and, go into self-imposed exile, I guess. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that what I'm not saying what Louis C.K., did in regards to masturbating in front of those other female comedians was okay or right necessarily. It's certainly weird, but it is worth noting that he also asked those same two women if he could. And although they later claimed that they felt weird about it, they consented. So my point in bringing that up is Louis C.K. did not do anything nearly as bad as Harvey Weinstein did. Yeah, it might have been weird kind of in the same vein. But the fact that he got consent really changes everything. And he fessed up to it, and he, decided to go on a self-imposed exile. Right? And, I thought that was somewhat, honorable and the right thing to do. And I figured he would take a break and come back and do his comedy. And sure enough, that's what he did. But what ended up happening is by then, the Me Too movement had become hijacked by the left. And when they got rumors that Louis C.K. was coming back, they started this whole thing of, and they had really started it since the time that Louis confessed, right? They said that Louis C.K. was just as bad as Harvey Weinstein, right? That was the exact same thing. And here I am thinking, no, it's not. It was nothing like what Harvey Weinstein did, in the sense that Harvey Weinstein tried to, molest, sexually harass, and possibly even rape these women. And then he covered it up. And he paid people off. He gave the actresses hush money and promised them roles. So, he pretty much buried his skeletons for years, right? And Louis C.K., while he was open about it, when he was doing those things, he fessed up to it, and he did the right thing, I would like to think. And yet he still got compared to Harvey Weinstein. And as Bill Burr so eloquently put it, the problem with Me Too is that whether you're a guy who just flirts the wrong way to a woman in a way that they don't like, or you really are a sexual harasser and a sexual assaulter like Harvey Weinstein, you're getting the same treatment regardless from the Me Too movement. There's no redemption in their eyes. There's no path to redemption. And this is the other thing. Like, Me Too started as going after the Hollywood bigwigs, right? And then it started going into other territories, right? Such as people in business, people in the modeling industry, e-celebs, and now if some chick at her 9-to-5 office job feels that, some guy just looked at her the wrong way, well, hashtag Me Too, and all of a sudden some poor schmuck is automatically in the same boat as Harvey Weinstein in the eyes of the Me Too movement. There's no redemption whatsoever. And this is the problem that we have with the Me Too movement. Now, that is on the, I guess, that is in the court of public opinion. However, in real life, and I suspect that this may be the case with Bill Cosby, right? there were allegations, and there, I guess, was some proof because he had to get, he had to get convicted somehow. They had to bring evidence. But it was also let go, I guess, later on because the conviction wasn't as tight as people thought after all. And this is the whole thing of the court of public opinion and social media versus the real life court system. Okay? Like I said, the Me Too movement started off as a really positive thing. And then it got hijacked by the far left radical feminists and became another tool for let's hate all men, let's blame all men for our faults, and basically every woman is a victim of Me Too. Every man is potentially a Harvey Weinstein type figure, and there's no road to redemption. Hell, if the feminists had their way, ladies and gentlemen, every single man who has masturbated ever in the history of, mankind would be considered, someone like Harvey Weinstein. And, that's just simply not true. In fact, this does kind of bring up something else that is very interesting, because once Me Too started to really kind of gain momentum in Hollywood, Kate Upton, the supermodel, she made some weird tweet, I remember, basically saying something that, she was shocked and offended that men masturbated to her, and I guess masturbate to her, period. And that, she meant for her modeling to be artistic, right? Now, it may be artistic, but, come on. Google a photo of her and, or look her up. She's very well endowed. The way she poses is very suggestive. She knows what she's doing. She knows what men do with her photos and with her videos, not to get, too much into gratuitous detail. But she knows, and so do a lot of these other, actresses and models and whatnot. So they can feign offense all they want, on social media and whatnot. And the Me Too people might buy some of it. But no one in the real world is buying any of it because it just doesn't pass the smell test. Right? And I'm using her as an example, but there are several other models and actresses and Instagram models and even OnlyFans models that do this. Right? I bring that up to say now that because of the whole thing with Bill Cosby getting released from prison, we're kind of now forced to once again reevaluate whether Bill Cosby is a monster or if he is America's wrongfully convicted dad, right? Now, here's the other interesting portion that I've seen of this, and this is another reason why I say the internet is not real life. Because you have two factions of internet activist movement, so to speak. You have the Me Too movement, and you have the Black Lives Matter movement. And this rule wasn't reported on, but I remember back when the whole Bill Cosby thing started, there were Black Lives Matter activists who were saying that, just like O.J. Simpson, Bill Cosby was wrongfully accused, and they were going after him because he's a black man, and that this was prejudice against the black man, that this was racism, etc., etc. Right? Then you have the Me Too movement saying that, Bill Cosby is a rapist, that he was able to get away with this for years because of his Hollywood, influence and influence as a comedian, etc., etc. Right? And oftentimes, these two groups love to, I guess, partner up to kind of go after Donald Trump, to go after conservatives, to go after libertarians, to go after anyone who doesn't agree with their agenda. And yet, in this case, these groups have been going after each other. They did it back when the Bill Cosby allegations first started, and now they're going after each other again. It's, like I said, it's not being widely reported, but I have seen tweets from Black Lives Matter activists saying, well, I guess Bill Cosby is an innocent man. This verdict has been overturned. Me Too is fighting with Black Lives Matter, again, saying that, Bill Cosby is a rapist. And how could this happen? This is an injustice, right? So these two very radical left-wing movements are fighting each other, really. And it's not really been a thing of left or right when you really get down to it. It's more of, as I said, the internet versus reality. And the whole thing with the Bill Cosby thing is, right, so many of us people who are living in reality, like I said, are now once again forced to take some time to, really ask what happened. If that matters to you, it might not. Now, here's the thing, right? All these Me Too activists are saying, oh my God, Bill Cosby is out. This is a huge injustice. He's probably going to go out there and start harassing women again. Well, I doubt that's going to happen for two reasons. One, Bill Cosby is, I believe, in his late 80s. He might even be in his early 90s now. So, the dude can barely walk. Now, the last time I saw him, he just looked old and, he wasn't in great health, right? So, I doubt that he's going to be putting any Quaaludes in, young women's drinks and sticking his pudding pop where it doesn't belong, I guess. So that, that little joke aside, he's old. And then, after all this shit that he's been through, he probably just wants to fucking disappear off of the face of the earth, right? And just, I think maybe his wife divorced him or filed for divorce, so I don't know if he still has a wife to go, home to. If he does, he probably, he'll go home to her. But if not, he probably just wants to disappear and be left alone, right? So I don't think he's going to be really harming anyone, and maybe that's how his story ends. Maybe he just disappears, you know, and kind of fades out, right? And the other thing is, oh, well, Harvey Weinstein is, if Bill Cosby was able to get out, then Harvey Weinstein is going to be able to get out, right? Like, that's the big fear. Well, there was a lot more to the Harvey Weinstein case. It was a bit of a different situation. And, they had much more, I guess, evidence. That dude's not going anywhere. I'm pretty sure of it. I mean, I was shocked that, Cosby made it out. Make no mistake. But like I said, two different cases, two different situations, and so, you really can't compare the two. With all that being said, this does bring up the question of, is Me Too really still a thing, or has it run its course, right? Because now their integrity has been kind of called into question now with Cosby's release. That's the only way I can really, think to describe it, honestly. And like I said, when it started, it was a good thing, but then it got politicized, and like so many of these other well-intentioned movement just became propaganda tools. And I suspect that if Bill Cosby was let go, you're going to see a lot more of these individuals from Me Too who were accused also come out and say, I was wrongfully accused by XYZ. And while I guarantee you that Bill Cosby's case might always be an enigma to us of whether or not he really did it, I guarantee you that there are going to be some, Me Too accusees that are in fact, I guess, proven to have been wrongfully convicted. And now with Black Lives Matter and Me Too kind of going at each other's throats, that's going to be interesting to watch as well, because they're kind of on the same, far left-wing ideologue spectrum, right? And yet they hate each other. They hate each other. Right? And this also, brings up another thing, too, that I'd like to speak on. As a result of this Me Too movement that has, grown and become a thing, many millennial men and Generation Z young men are somewhat afraid to go out and date or try and hook up with a girl, right? Because now the whole thing is, well, if I make a move and she doesn't approve of it, and it doesn't have to be that bad, but if I make a move and she doesn't like it, she could accuse me of harassment and Me Too, and there goes my job out of college, or if I'm in college, there goes my scholarship, and or I could get expelled from school, or worse, I could get expelled and then wrongfully imprisoned that's a big fear that some listeners of the show have emailed me on, right? It's very kind of tumultuous for guys of all ages, really, now, to just be out there with Me Too. This change, the whole thing with Cosby, might start to change that, because if it does turn out that, the whole entire investigation was a fraud, then the feminists who hijacked the Me Too movement are going to lose more, even more credibility. They've already lost a bunch in the eyes of the legal system because Cosby has been let out, right? And it's not going to end pretty for them. But this also may be a good thing too, because Cosby, he might be going right back to prison, right? The old OJ thing. They didn't catch OJ for, the alleged murder, but they caught him for something else, right? So that could be the thing with Cosby as well. Who knows? And with most criminals, criminals are dumb. So they usually tend to fuck up more than once. So, if Cosby really is a scumbag, then he probably is, going to mess up again. Although, again, I don't know, just because at his age, right? But irregardless, this may be a wake-up, I hope it is, to the Me Too movement, that the days of just going around accusing men of sexual assault willy-nilly is over, right? And I've always been a firm proponent. I do believe that rape and sexual assaults are heinous crimes and, should be prosecuted. But I am also of the belief that lying about rape and sexual assault and sexual harassment, even to a lesser extent, should be penalized as well, legally speaking. Because it can really ruin a man's reputation, even when they're falsely accused, because, the court of public opinion is different from the legal system. Just because Bill Cosby is out of prison doesn't mean that he's going to go back and start doing comedy again, right? His life is, even if he is completely innocent, even if he didn't do anything wrong, I mean, he's at the end of his life. His image has been destroyed pretty much. And, he's done. So he may be a free man, but really he's not. And, I guess from a certain point of view, that might be sad for some people, for others, good. He might deserve it. My ultimate point in bringing all this up, folks, is this is what happens when, you overly politicize things like Me Too or like Black Lives Matter. Both movements I would like to be at first started out with good intentions, and then as soon as they got hijacked by political activists, they turned to absolute shit. there's no other way of saying it, really. And I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of these other, left-wing, political movements collapse. And who knows? Now that the hard left is also going after Donald Trump and accusing him of various shit again, he's going to probably run again and, fight back against them. Because he doesn't mess around and that sort of thing. So, my warning to the Me Too people is, be careful who you accuse. And, this is just good for women in general. If you accuse a guy of, committing a heinous crime against you, you better have, absolute proof beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that they are, responsible. And what I mean by a heinous crime is in fact, rape or sexual assault. One of the other things that the feminist movement and the Me Too movement have, claimed now is that, a woman can accuse a guy of rape now, according to the feminists, if they had consensual sex, right? If the woman consented to sex and then in the middle, changed her mind. And, then, even in the end, if the sex was bad, even, the feminist logic is now that, a woman can now pretty much claim they were assaulted, right? If they ended up, not liking their sex partner or something. No, I mean, if you consent the first, ground, then that's that. If a guy is, kind of shady looking or whatever and gives you the wrong vibes, just don't go with him. It's as simple as that. Same for you too, gentlemen. If a woman is looking good, right, but there's something off about her, personality-wise, if you get the, feeling that she might be a crazy chick, and not in the fun way, crazy chicks are fun, but crazy chicks can also be crazy, and, in this day and age especially, it might be a good idea to stay away from them. So if there's something off about a chick that you're into, and this is kind of my, word of advice for my fellow 20-somethings and for the early 20s and teen guys who are kind of coming up, let me just give you a warning. If you think it's not worth it, if your gut is sending you firearms about, a crazy chick, it's always best to trust your gut. It's not worth, getting Me Too'd or whatever, and, going through hell, basically. So that's that. Those are kind of my thoughts on the whole Bill Cosby thing. Again, I want to make clear to people, I'm not saying that he's innocent, and I'm not saying he's guilty. What I'm saying is, social media has really made it, so much so to the point where we really can't even, really, I guess, tell what happened, and what didn't. And it's just a crazy world, right? So I don't know, man. It's, again, we're living in strange times. That's all I can say. So anyway, folks, I appreciate you spending the last 45 minutes or so with me, wherever you are in the past, present, future hour. If I don't see you on the live stream, have a good night, and a good 4th of July weekend, and, happy Independence Day to you all, and happy July as well. We're already in July of 2021. Wow. Can't believe it. This year has flown by, man. We just hit 40 episodes of the podcast. This will be 41. Crazy. So anyway, folks, I hope you have a good 4th of July weekend. I'll see some of you for the Saturday night live stream. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good day or good evening wherever you are in the past, present, future hour. God bless, and as my friend John Nero likes to say, God, freedom, legacy, in that order, and I will see you on the next episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.